Prudence knows she does not belong here. A black housemaid, 6 months pregnant, carrying firewood across the lawn of an estate that should have forgotten her existence by now. She is a mistake the palace erased 7 months ago, a secret wife whose marriage the queen declared invalid, whose love was called a lie. But when she rounds the hedge, arms full of wood, and sees Prince Edward standing 30 feet away in his royal uniform, his hand resting on the arm of his perfect blonde fiancée, her world stops. His eyes meet hers, travel down to her swollen belly. The wood crashes from her arms. His face drains of all color, because he is staring at the child he never knew existed. The child that proved she was never just a mistake. She was his wife. And now everyone is about to know it. Welcome to our channel, where we bring you emotional stories that stay with you. If you're new here, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss a story. And if you're returning, thank you. Your support means everything. Now, stay until the end, drop a comment with your thoughts, and let's begin. The wood scattered like bones across the manicured grass. Prudence could not move, could not breathe, could not think past the roaring in her ears that sounded like the sea, like drowning, like the night 2 months ago when the palace guards had dragged her from Edward's chambers and thrown her into a carriage bound for nowhere. He took 1 step toward her. Stopped. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Lady Georgiana's laugh tinkled like wind chimes. "Edward, darling, what is it? You look as though you have seen a ghost." A ghost. Yes. That was what Prudence was supposed to be. Gone. Erased. A mistake scrubbed clean like the floors she had once polished until her hands bled. Nothing. Edward's voice came out strangled. Nothing. But he could not look away from her belly. From the evidence of what they had done, what they had been, what his mother the queen had sworn never existed. Prudence bent to gather the wood. Her hands shook so violently the first piece slipped through her fingers twice. The baby kicked, hard, as if sensing its father 15 paces away. As if reaching for him. "Allow me." She jerked upright. Thomas, Edward's valet, had appeared at her elbow. His weathered face revealed nothing, but his dark eyes held recognition. And pity. "No need, sir." Prudence kept her voice steady, kept her eyes down. Became Sarah Clark again, the name she had given Mrs. Hartley when she arrived 3 weeks ago, desperate and nearly penniless. "I can manage." Sarah, was it? Thomas gathered the wood with efficient movements. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Or should I say, Sarah?" She cut him off. "Only Sarah." He straightened, arms full of kindling, and met her gaze. In his eyes she saw the night he had stood witness in that tiny village church, the night he had handed her a simple gold band and whispered that his prince had finally found something worth more than duty. The night everything had been possible. He believed them, Thomas said quietly. When they said the marriage was invalid, he believed he had no choice. Then he was a fool. Prudence took the wood from his arms. "And so was I." She turned toward the servants' entrance. Her legs felt like water, but she would not run. Would not give Edward or his perfect porcelain bride the satisfaction of seeing her break. "Prudence." His voice stopped her heart. He had not spoken her name in 7 months. Not since the morning after their wedding night, when she had woken in his bed, wearing his ring, tasting him on her lips, believing she was the luckiest woman in England. She did not turn around. "Sarah," she corrected. Her voice did not shake. "Small miracle. My name is Sarah Clark, Your Highness. I am a housemaid. We have never met." "Prudence, I need to." "Edward." Georgiana's voice held confusion now. "Do you know this girl?" The silence stretched. 1 breath. 2. 5. 10. "No," Edward said finally. "I do not." The lie landed like a blade between Prudence's ribs. She walked toward the servant's door, wood clutched to her chest, belly leading the way, each step an act of will. Behind her she heard Georgiana's bright chatter resume, heard Edward's responses, clipped and hollow. She made it inside, down the narrow corridor, into the scullery where the other maids chattered over their washing. made it all the way to the linen closet before her knees gave out. She sank onto a pile of folded sheets, would forgotten, and pressed both hands to her belly. The baby rolled beneath her palms. Edward's child. The child conceived on their wedding night in that tiny room above the village tavern, with rain hammering the roof and his mouth on hers, and his voice breaking as he swore he would move heaven and earth to keep her. He had moved nothing. When his mother discovered them, someone had talked, a servant, a villager, someone. The queen had descended like an avenging angel. The marriage was invalid, she declared. A technicality. The bans had not been read for the required 3 weeks. The vicar was not properly licensed. Something. Prudence still did not fully understand the legal words they had thrown at her like stones. What she understood was this. One day she was Princess Prudence, Edward's wife, carrying his future. The next day she was nothing. A housemaid who had seduced a prince. A criminal who would hang for treason if she ever spoke the truth. They had given her £200. A cottage in Cornwall. A warning that if she ever returned, if she ever breathed a word, she would disappear into a prison cell and never see daylight again. She had lasted 4 months in Cornwall. For months of her money trickling away on rent and food, and the midwife who examined her and said the baby was healthy, growing strong. For months of waking every morning in that cold cottage and remembering the warmth of Edward's arms. When the money ran out, when the landlord threatened to throw her into the street, she had made a choice. The only choice she had left. She returned to the one place she knew how to work. She gave a false name, kept her head down, took a position at Somerset Estate, which everyone said the crown had purchased for the prince's summer residence after his wedding. She had thought she had time. The wedding was not until autumn. Edward was meant to be traveling the continent with his bride-to-be, showing her off to allied kingdoms. He was not supposed to arrive at Somerset until next month. But here he was. And now he knew about the baby. The door opened. Prudence looked up, expecting Mrs. Hartley come to scold her for idleness. Edward filled the doorway instead. She scrambled to her feet, heart slamming against her ribs. You should not be here. If anyone sees. I dismissed Thomas to watch the corridor. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The space became impossibly small. He smelled of sandalwood and horse and the particular soap he favored. Smells that still came to her in dreams. Is it mine? The question hit her like a slap. She drew herself up to her full height, which brought her barely to his shoulder, and met his eyes. Get out. Prudence. You do not get to ask me that. Her voice shook now, but with fury, not tears. You do not get to stand there in your fine uniform with your pretty bride waiting outside and ask if this baby is yours. You know it is. You know the last man I lay with was you. On our wedding night. In our marriage bed. That marriage was not legal. Because your mother made it so. Prudence stepped closer. She would not be cowed. Not anymore. We stood before God, Edward. We made vows. That vicar was ordained. Those vows were real. The bans were a formality your mother used to destroy us. She pressed her hands to her belly. You could have fought for me. For us. Instead you accepted their lies and moved on to the next suitable bride as though I never existed. His jaw clenched. You do not understand the position I was in.
No.
I do not understand how the man who swore he would burn the world down before losing me could not even burn a single piece of paper. It was not that simple. It never is for men like you. She moved toward the door. Now leave before someone notices the prince soiling himself with servants in closets. He caught her wrist. Not hard. Barely a touch. But it stopped her cold. I thought of you every day, he said roughly. Every single day. I tried to find you. They told me you had taken the money and gone abroad. That you wanted nothing more to do with me. She looked at his hand on her wrist. At the gold signet ring he wore. At the pale band of skin on his fourth finger, where another ring should be. Where their ring had been before his mother undoubtedly forced him to remove it. I wore mine until my fingers swelled too thick, she said quietly. I wear it on a chain now. Under my dress. Next to my heart. Where it will stay until the day I die. whether you consider me your wife or not." His fingers tightened on her wrist. "Prudence." The door swung open. They sprang apart. Mrs. Hartley stood in the doorway, eyes narrowed, taking in the prince and the housemaid alone in the linen closet. "Your Highness." The housekeeper's voice could freeze water. "Lady Georgiana is asking for you. Something about the rose garden." "Of course." Edward's face became a mask.
"Cool.
Controlled. Royal. I was merely, the girl was showing me where fresh linens are kept. For my chambers." Mrs. Hartley's gaze flicked to Prudence. "Sarah does not manage the upper floors. She works in the kitchens and grounds only." "A misunderstanding then." Edward moved toward the door.
Paused.
"Did not look back. See that she eats properly. She looks unwell." Then he was gone. Mrs. Hartley stepped fully into the closet and closed the door behind her. "What was that?" "Nothing, ma'am." Prudence smoothed her apron with shaking hands. "As His Highness said, a misunderstanding. That man looked at you like you hung the moon." The older woman's voice was softer now. "And you looked at him like he broke your heart." "I do not know what you mean, ma'am. I have worked in royal households for 40 years, girl." Mrs. Hartley moved closer. "I know when something is amiss. You arrived here 3 weeks ago, clearly with child, clearly in trouble, and gave me a name I do not quite believe. Now, the prince himself seeks you out in linen closets. So I will ask you once, and only once, what is your real name? And what is that baby to him?" Prudence looked at the woman who had shown her nothing but kindness these past weeks, who had given her work when no one else would, who had not asked questions about the missing husband or the father of the child. "My name is Prudence Fletcher," she said quietly. "And this baby is nothing to him. Nothing at all." It was not quite a lie. If Edward's mother had her way, if the law had its say, then this child was indeed nothing. A bastard. Fatherless. Worthless in the eyes of the world that mattered. But in Prudence's heart, in the secret place she kept locked away, this baby was everything. This baby was proof that for 2 perfect months she had been loved by a prince, had been worthy of a crown, even if that crown had been made of lies. Quick pause if you're feeling this story, hit the hype so others can find it. Comment where you're watching from. Now, back to the story. Over the following 3 days, Prudence learned what torture truly meant. Edward was everywhere. In the morning when she carried water to the upper floors, she would round a corner and find him standing in the corridor, jaw tight, eyes tracking her every movement. In the afternoon when she helped in the kitchens, she would look up from kneading bread to see him through the window, watching from the terrace. In the evening when she retreated to the servants' quarters, Thomas would appear with messages scrawled on torn paper. "We must talk. Please. I need to understand." She burned every note in the kitchen fire. Mrs. Hartley said nothing, but her eyes missed nothing either. She had quietly reassigned Prudence to lighter duties. No more hauling firewood. No more scrubbing floors on her knees. Instead, Prudence found herself polishing silver in the butler's pantry or mending linens in the sewing room. Work that could be done sitting down. Work that would not harm the baby. The kindness made Prudence want to weep. On the 4th morning, she woke before dawn to the sound of rain hammering the narrow window of her attic room. The other housemaids still slept in their narrow beds, snoring softly. Prudence dressed in the dark, her fingers clumsy on the buttons of her work dress. The waistband no longer closed properly. She had let out the seams twice already. She made her way down the servants' stairs to the kitchen. Cook would not arrive for another hour. Prudence cherished these quiet moments before the household woke, when she could pretend she was simply a girl making tea in her own home, not a woman hiding from a past that refused to stay buried. She filled the kettle and set it on the range. While waiting for the water to boil, she moved to the window and pressed her forehead against the cool glass. The garden stretched out before her, gray in the pre-dawn light, roses bent under the weight of rain. 7 months ago, there had been rain like this. The night Edward had found her scrubbing the palace corridors long after the other servants had retired. She had been singing something foolish, a tavern song her mother used to hum while working. She had not heard his approach until he spoke. "You have a beautiful voice." She had dropped her brush, scrambled to her feet, curtsied, so low her knee touched the wet stone. "Your Highness, forgive me. I did not mean to disturb." "You did not disturb." He had stepped closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his jaw. He had come from some state function, still wearing his formal uniform, but he had loosened his collar as though the restrictions of court had been choking him. "What is your name?" "Prudence, Your Highness." "Prudence Fletcher." "Prudence." He had said it like he was tasting something sweet. "How long have you worked here?" 3 years, Your Highness." 3 years. Something shifted in his expression. "And I have never noticed you until tonight." "I am a housemaid, Your Highness. We are not meant to be noticed." Perhaps that is the problem. He had stayed there in that corridor for an hour. Talked to her like she was a person, not a servant. Asked about her family, dead, she told him, lost to fever when she was 16. Asked about her dreams. She had laughed at that. Housemaids did not have dreams. Asked if she was happy. No one had ever asked her that before. When he finally left, when he disappeared back into the gilded parts of the palace where princes belonged, Prudence had thought that was the end of it. A strange, sweet moment. Nothing more. But the next night he had returned. And the next. Always late. Always after the palace had settled into sleep. Always seeking her out like she was north, and he was a compass spinning helplessly in her direction. Within a month, she was hopelessly in love. Within 2 months, so was he. The kettle whistled, pulling Prudence back to the present. She made her tea and sat at the long wooden table, both hands wrapped around the cup for warmth. The baby kicked. She rubbed the spot absently. "Does it hurt?" Prudence's head snapped up. Edward stood in the kitchen doorway, still wearing his riding clothes, hair damp from rain. He must have been out for hours. "You should not be here." She did not rise, did not curtsy. What was the point? If Lady Georgiana wakes and finds you missing? "Georgiana believes I suffer from insomnia." He moved into the kitchen, his boots leaving wet prints on the stone floor. "She suggested I take morning rides to clear my head." "How convenient for you." He stopped at the opposite side of the table. "Does it hurt?" "When the baby moves." She should tell him to leave. Should call for Mrs. Hartley or cook or anyone who might serve as a shield against the ache in his voice. Instead, she heard herself say, "No, it does not hurt. It feels like butterfly wings sometimes. Like someone tapping from inside, asking to be let out." "May I?" He gestured toward her belly, then let his hand fall. "Forgive me. I have no right." "No," she agreed. "You do not." But she stood, walked around the table, took his hand, his large, warm, familiar hand, and placed it on her belly, right where the baby's foot pressed against her ribs. The baby kicked, hard, directly into his palm. Edward's breath caught. His eyes flew to hers. "I felt. Your child," she finished, saying hello to the father, who does not want it. "That is not true." His other hand came up to cup her face. "Prudence, I swear to you, I never knew. If I had known you were carrying my child, if I had any inkling." "You would have what?" She pulled back, breaking contact. "Defied your mother? Refused the political marriage your kingdom needs? Chosen a housemaid and a bastard over your duty to the crown? Do not call our child that word. It is what your world will call it." She moved to the window, putting distance between them. "It is what it is, Edward. A child born of an invalid marriage. Fatherless. Nameless. Worthless in the eyes of the law. Then the law is wrong. The law is the law. You, of all people, should know that." Silence. Rain drummed harder against the windows. Somewhere above, floorboards creaked as the household began to wake. "Tell me what happened," Edward said quietly. "After they took you from me. Tell me everything." "Why?" She kept her back to him. If she looked at his face, she would crumble. "What difference does it make now?" "Because I need to know. Because I've spent 7 months half-mad wondering if you were safe, if you were eating, if you hated me." Because I see you standing here, carrying my child, working as a servant in my own house, and I cannot breathe for the guilt of it. Your guilt is not my concern. Prudence. He was closer now. She could feel the heat of him at her back. Please. She closed her eyes. They came for me at dawn. Your mother and 6 guards dragged me from your chambers before you woke. Said the marriage was invalid. Said if I ever spoke of it, I would hang for treason. They gave me money and a cottage in Cornwall and a threat. Stay away or die. Those were my choices. I woke and you were gone.
His voice was raw.
My mother said you had confessed to seducing me. Said you had taken a payment and disappeared. I tore the palace apart looking for you. She showed me papers. Legal documents proving the marriage was not valid. The vicar had lied about his credentials. The banns were improperly filed. I tried to fight it. I swear I tried. But my father was dying, war with France was imminent, and my mother said if I did not sign the annulment papers, she would have you arrested and tried for fraud. So you signed. So I signed. The defeat in his voice was absolute. To protect you. To save your life. You saved nothing. She turned to face him. You condemned me to 7 months of hell. 7 months of waking alone and terrified. Of watching my belly grow and knowing my child would never know its father. Of running out of money and begging for work and taking a false name just to survive. I tried to find you. I sent men to Cornwall. I left Cornwall 4 months ago. Where did you go? Nowhere. Everywhere. I moved from village to village taking whatever work I could find. Washing, cooking, cleaning. Hiding my belly under loose clothes until I could not hide anymore. When the money ran out completely, I came here. The one place I knew how to work. I thought I had time before you arrived. Why did you not write to me? Send word somehow. She laughed. The sound was bitter even to her own ears. Write to you? The man who signed papers declaring our marriage never existed? The man engaged to marry another woman? And say what, exactly? Dear Edward, remember that invalid marriage your mother erased? Well, there is a baby. Hope that is not inconvenient for your royal wedding plans. I would have, he stopped. I do not know what I would have done. But I would have done something. You can do something now. She moved toward the door. Cook would arrive any moment. This conversation needed to end. You can leave me alone. You can marry your duchess. You can forget you ever saw me. I cannot forget you. He caught her arm, gentle but firm. I tried. For 7 months, I tried. But you are burned into my soul, Prudence Fletcher. You and I stood before God and made vows. Your name is written in my heart in letters of fire. Invalid or not, legal or not, you are my wife. You will always be my wife. Pretty words. She pulled free. But words change nothing. You made your choice. Now live with it. She left him standing in the kitchen, alone in the gray dawn light, one hand still raised as though reaching for something already gone. By midday, the rain had cleared. The household buzzed with activity. Lady Georgiana had decided to host a garden party the following week. An engagement celebration, though the formal announcement would not come until the autumn ball in London. Still, she wanted to share her joy with the local gentry. Wanted them to see her happiness. Wanted to practice being a princess. Prudence helped prepare the drawing room for the planning session, polishing surfaces until they gleamed. Mrs. Hartley had assigned her to work directly under Georgiana's lady's maid, a sharp-eyed woman named Miss Abernathy, who seemed to catalogue every servant's movement like a general surveying troops. Stand there. Miss Abernathy pointed to a corner near the window. Lady Georgiana may require tea or correspondence materials. Be ready to fetch whatever she needs. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not stare. Do not exist unless required. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Prudence took her position. Became invisible. A skill she had perfected long ago. Lady Georgiana swept into the room like sunshine given form. She wore pale yellow muslin that made her look impossibly young and fresh. Diamond ear bobs caught the light. Her blonde hair was dressed in elaborate curls that must have taken her maid hours to achieve. "Oh, this room is perfect." She clapped her hands together. "Mrs. Hartley, you have outdone yourself. Edward will be so pleased." Edward entered behind her. His eyes found Prudence immediately. Held. She looked away first. "Darling, come sit." Georgiana patted the settee beside her. "We must discuss the menu. Cook suggested strawberries and cream, but I wondered about lavender cakes. What do you think?" "Whatever pleases you." Edward sat stiffly, every line of his body radiating tension. "You always say that." Georgiana laughed. "But this is our celebration. I want you to help choose." She turned to Miss Abernathy. "Have someone fetch the menu proposals from Cook." Miss Abernathy looked at Prudence.
"Well?"
"You heard her ladyship." Prudence curtsied and fled. The kitchens were in chaos. Cook shouted orders while 3 scullery maids raced about with pots and platters. Prudence found the menu proposals on the side table and tucked them under her arm. "Sarah?" Thomas appeared at her elbow. "A word. In private." She should refuse. Should return to the drawing room immediately. Instead, she followed him into the butler's pantry and closed the door. "His Highness is destroying himself," Thomas said without preamble. "He barely sleeps. Barely eats. He stares at nothing for hours. Lady Georgiana thinks he is nervous about the wedding. I know better. That is not my concern. It is if you carry his child." Thomas stepped closer. "I was there that night, Prudence. I stood witness when you two made your vows. I saw the way he looked at you, like you were his salvation. No document, no royal decree, can erase that. The Queen seems to think otherwise. The Queen is desperate." Thomas glanced at the closed door, then lowered his voice further. "The King is dying. Truly dying this time. Weeks, perhaps days left. Edward must marry well and quickly to secure the succession. His younger brother, Prince Leopold, has been making noise about Edward's fitness to rule. Calling him weak. Saying a man who cannot control his own heart cannot control a kingdom. What does this have to do with me? Everything. If Leopold can prove Edward is compromised in any way, if he can show Edward has been lying about his marital status, he can challenge the succession. The Queen used that threat to force Edward to sign the annulment. Told him if he did not, she would let Leopold destroy him and take the throne. Leopold is cruel, Prudence. He would lead this kingdom into darkness. Edward knew that, so he signed." Prudence pressed a hand to her belly. "He sacrificed me to save a kingdom. He sacrificed himself too." Thomas's weathered face was sad. "I have served that boy since he was 15 years old. I have never seen him as happy as he was with you. And I have never seen him as destroyed as he has been these past months. He is dying inside, Prudence. Slowly. And when he saw you on that lawn, saw that baby, something in him woke up. Something he had buried. Hope. Rage." Thomas handed her a sealed letter. "He asked me to give you this. Read it. Do not burn it like the others. Just read it. Please." She took the letter with shaking hands. "This changes nothing." Perhaps not. But perhaps it changes everything. He left her alone in the pantry. Prudence stared at the letter. Edward's handwriting. Her name, her real name, written across the front in black ink. She broke the seal. "Prudence, I know you do not want my words. I know you have every reason to hate me. But there are things you must understand. The marriage was invalid because my mother made it so. She paid the vicar to lie about his credentials. She falsified the band's registration. She created the technicality that destroyed us. I have proof. Documents my valet obtained from the church registry. The marriage was legal. It was always legal. My mother committed fraud to erase you. I did not know this until 2 days ago. Thomas has been investigating since I arrived and saw you. When I learned the truth, I confronted my mother. She laughed. Said it did not matter. Said even if the marriage was legal, she would claim you seduced me, claim the child is not mine, claim anything necessary to prevent a housemaid from becoming queen. My father is dying. I will be king within days or weeks. When I am king, My mother's power ends. I can overturn the annulment. I can restore our marriage. I can legitimize our child. But only if you trust me. Only if you wait. I am asking you to wait, Prudence. To stay at Somerset. To let me make this right. I cannot break the engagement to Georgiana yet. Her father controls half our military forces. If I slight him now, he will turn to Leopold and support his claim to the throne. The kingdom will tear itself apart. But once I am king, once the succession is secure, I can act. I can claim you publicly. I can make you my queen. You and our child. The family I should never have abandoned. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I am asking anyway. Wait for me. Trust me. Give me one more chance to prove I am the man you believed I was. The man who swore to burn the world down for you. The world is about to catch fire. Yours, always and forever. Edward. Prudence read the letter 3 times. Her hands trembled so badly, the paper rustled like leaves. Legal. The marriage had been legal. His mother had lied, had committed fraud, had destroyed 2 lives for politics. The door opened. Miss Abernathy stood there, face pinched with irritation. What are you doing? Lady Georgiana is waiting for those menus. Forgive me. Prudence tucked the letter into her bodice and grabbed the menu proposals. I am coming now. She returned to the drawing room. Edward and Georgiana sat close together on the settee, heads bent over seating charts. Georgiana's hand rested on Edward's arm. Proprietary. Trusting. Innocent. Prudence's heart twisted. She handed the menus to Miss Abernathy and returned to her corner. Became invisible again. But she felt Edward's eyes on her. Felt the weight of his letter against her heart. Felt the baby kick as though sensing the shift in everything. Wait for me, he had written. Prudence pressed her hand to her belly and wondered if she had the strength to wait. Or if waiting would destroy her completely. The garden party arrived wrapped in perfect weather. Blue skies stretched endlessly above Somerset Estate. Roses bloomed in riots of crimson and cream. The local gentry descended in their carriages, eager to catch a glimpse of the prince and his beautiful bride-to-be. Prudence stayed in the kitchens where she belonged. She helped arrange tea sandwiches on silver trays, her movements mechanical. Through the window, she could see the guests gathering on the lawn. Ladies in their finest day dresses. Gentlemen in tailored coats. Georgiana floating among them like a butterfly, Edward at her side like a statue. Stop staring. Cook swatted Prudence's hand away from the cucumber sandwiches. You will give us away with those cow eyes. I am not. You are. Every girl in this house knows you are carrying a torch for someone above your station. Half of them think it is the head groom. The other half think you are simply foolish. Cook's round face softened. Be careful, girl. Nothing good comes from loving where you should not. Too late, Prudence thought. Far too late. Mrs. Hartley swept into the kitchen. Sarah, I need you to carry the lemonade service to the lawn. Jenny has twisted her ankle and cannot manage the tray. Prudence's stomach dropped. Surely someone else. Everyone else is occupied. You can manage a tray, can you not? Mrs. Hartley's sharp eyes suggested this was not a request. Your condition is not so advanced that you cannot walk across a lawn. There was no refusing. Prudence lifted the heavy silver tray, balanced it carefully, and made her way through the servants' entrance toward the garden. The weight of the crystal pitcher and glasses made her arms tremble. The baby pressed against her lungs, making each breath an effort. She emerged onto the lawn. 50 guests turned to watch the servants circulate. Prudence kept her eyes down and moved toward the refreshment table set beneath an ancient oak. How quaint! A woman's voice rang out. They are using the pregnant maid to serve. I suppose they must put her to work somehow before she becomes completely useless. Laughter rippled through the crowd.
Polite.
Cruel. Casual. Prudence's face burned. She set the tray on the table with shaking hands. The pitcher rattled against the glasses. Careful there. A gentleman's voice. Cold. Amused. We would hate for you to damage the silver. I am certain it costs more than you earn in a year. More laughter. Prudence curtsied and turned to leave. Wait. Georgiana appeared at her elbow. Are you quite well? You look pale. I am well, my lady. Thank you. You should not be carrying such heavy trays in your condition. Georgiana frowned. Mrs. Hartley should know better. When is the baby due? Every eye fixed on Prudence. She felt stripped bare, examined,
Judged.
3 months, my lady. And the father? This from an older woman in purple silk. Lady Ashford, if Prudence remembered correctly. A notorious gossip. Is he employed at this state? That is hardly appropriate, Georgiana began. The girl is unwed and with child at a royal residence. Lady Ashford's voice dripped false concern. One must wonder about the moral character of the staff His Highness employs. Prudence's hands curled into fists at her sides. She opened her mouth to respond. To say what? She did not know, when Edward's voice cut through the garden like a blade. The moral character of my staff is beyond reproach, Lady Ashford. He moved through the crowd, every inch the future king. And perhaps we might focus our concern on the health of a woman clearly struggling rather than dissecting her private life for entertainment. Silence fell.
Thick.
Suffocating. Lady Ashford's face flushed crimson. Your Highness, I meant no offense. Yet offense was given. Edward stopped beside Prudence. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. Mrs. Hartley, please ensure this young woman is given lighter duties. She should not be carrying heavy trays. Of course, Your Highness. Mrs. Hartley had materialized from nowhere. Come along, Sarah. But Lady Ashford was not finished. Forgive me, Your Highness, but you seem remarkably concerned with a housemaid's welfare. One might almost think you knew her personally. The garden held its breath. Edward's expression did not change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something dangerous. I am concerned with the welfare of all who serve this household. Is that not what a good master should be? Of course. Lady Ashford smiled. Serpent sweet. How very noble of you. Prudence curtsied and fled. Behind her she heard Georgiana's bright voice attempting to redirect conversation back to safer topics. Heard the rustle of skirts and murmur of speculation. Heard her own name, or rather, Sarah Clark's name, being passed from mouth to mouth like coin. She made it to the servants' corridor before her knees buckled. She sagged against the cool stone wall, one hand pressed to her belly, the other to her mouth. He had defended her. In front of everyone. In front of Georgiana. In front of society's most vicious gossip. He had made a spectacle of them both. That was foolish. Thomas appeared beside her. Lady Ashford will dine on that moment for weeks. By tomorrow, half of London will have heard that Prince Edward showed unusual interest in a pregnant housemaid. I know. Prudence straightened. I did not ask him to defend me. He could not help himself. Thomas's voice held resignation. That is the problem. When it comes to you, he cannot help himself. The king died 3 days later. The news arrived by messenger at dawn. Prudence heard the commotion from her attic room. Heard the servants whispering in the corridors. Heard Mrs. Hartley's voice calling everyone to the main hall. They assembled in ordered rows. Housemaids, footmen, grooms, cooks, gardeners. Every soul employed at Somerset Estate. Mrs. Hartley stood at the front, her usually stern face drawn with genuine sorrow. His Majesty King Edmund has passed into God's keeping, she announced. Prince Edward is now King Edward. We will observe proper mourning. All entertainments are cancelled. The household will wear black armbands. We will pray for His late Majesty's soul and for our new king's wisdom. Murmurs of God save the king rippled through the assembled servants. Prudence stood at the back, one hand on her belly. Edward was king now, which meant his mother's power had ended, which meant he could act, which meant everything was about to change. The household spent the day in subdued activity. Curtains were drawn, mirrors covered, black cloth draped over doorways. The rituals of royal mourning were precise and absolute. Edward and Georgiana left immediately for London. The coronation would happen swiftly. The kingdom needed stability. The engagement announcement would be delayed, naturally, but not cancelled. Duty marched forward regardless of grief. Prudence watched their carriage disappear down the drive from her attic window. She pressed her palm against the cold glass. "Wait for me," his letter had said. She was waiting. But for what? For him to magically untangle the web of politics and duty that bound him? For Georgiana to conveniently disappear? For society to suddenly accept that a black housemaid could be queen? The baby kicked
Hard.
as if to say, have faith. Or perhaps, give up. She could not tell which. 2 weeks passed. The household operated in muted efficiency. No word came from London beyond the official pronouncements published in the papers. The coronation date was set. The period of official mourning would last 3 months. The king's engagement to Lady Georgiana Pemberton would be announced at the conclusion of mourning. Prudence's belly grew rounder. Her ankles swelled. The baby pressed against her ribs, making sleep impossible. She spent her nights in the attic, staring at the ceiling, counting the days until her child would be born fatherless. She had been a fool to hope. On the 15th day after the king's death, Thomas found her in the linen closet. "You have a visitor." Her heart stopped.
Who?
"Someone who wishes to remain discreet." The blue drawing room. "Mrs. Hartley is looking the other way for precisely 1 hour." Prudence followed him through the quiet house. The blue drawing room was rarely used, tucked away in the family wing. Thomas opened the door and gestured her inside. The Queen Mother stood at the window. Prudence's blood turned to ice. Every instinct screamed to run. But where would she go? This woman had destroyed her once. Could destroy her again, with a single word. "Your Majesty." Prudence sank into a deep curtsy despite her ungainly belly. "I did not know." "Close the door." The Queen's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "We have much to discuss, and very little time." Thomas closed the door quietly. Prudence straightened, heart hammering. The Queen turned from the window. She was beautiful even in morning black. Silver hair perfectly arranged. Face still lovely despite 60 years. Eyes like winter frost. "You are carrying my grandchild," she said without preamble. "I carry a child, Your Majesty. Whether you acknowledge the relationship is your choice." A thin smile touched the Queen's mouth. "You have spirit. I remember that. It is why Edward was drawn to you. He always preferred things that bit back. Why are you here?" "To make you an offer." The Queen moved closer. Close enough that Prudence could see the fine lines around her eyes, the grief etched into her features despite her control. "My husband is dead. My son is king. And you are a problem I had thought resolved. I am no threat to you. You are the greatest threat imaginable." The Queen's voice dropped. "Edward loves you. I have seen him love one thing in his life with genuine abandon, and it was you. Do you know what a man who loves like that will do? He will tear down kingdoms. He will sacrifice everything. He will destroy himself. I have asked nothing of him. You do not have to ask. Your mere existence is a demand he cannot ignore." The Queen's eyes flicked to Prudence's belly. "That child is a demand. He will try to claim you, to make you queen. And in doing so, he will destroy everything I have spent 40 years building. Then what do you want?" "I want you gone." The Queen moved to a writing desk and retrieved a leather folder. "I am prepared to offer you £20,000. Enough to live comfortably for life. Enough to raise that child in luxury. A house in France. Documents establishing you as a widow of good family. A new name. A new life. All I require is that you disappear before the coronation. That you never contact Edward again. That you never tell that child who its father is." £20,000. A fortune beyond comprehension. Security. Safety. A life of ease for her baby. All she had to do was abandon Edward forever. Prudence looked at the Queen Mother, at the woman who had lied and schemed and destroyed to protect her son's throne, at the woman who would do it again without hesitation. "No," Prudence said quietly. The Queen's eyebrows rose. "No. Your son asked me to wait. I am waiting." "He asked you to wait for a fantasy." The Queen's voice turned sharp. Do you truly believe he can make you queen? A housemaid? A woman of no family, no fortune, no name? The lords will revolt. The church will refuse to crown you. The people will riot in the streets. That is his concern, not mine. It will be your concern when the mob tears you apart. The queen stepped closer. I am trying to save your life, girl. Edward may be king, but he is not invincible. There are forces in this kingdom that would sooner see you dead than elevated. My younger son, Leopold, is one of them. He waits for any excuse to challenge Edward's rule. If Edward tries to legitimize a bastard child and marry its common mother, Leopold will have all the excuse he needs. Edward said he had proof our marriage was legal, that you committed fraud to invalidate it. The queen's face did not change. Clever boy. Yes, I did. And yes, technically your marriage stands. But proving fraud against the queen mother? In a court that serves at my family's pleasure? That case could drag on for years. Years during which you and that child will live in limbo. Years during which Leopold will gather support. Years during which Edward's throne will be in constant jeopardy. Why are you telling me this? Because I am offering you mercy. The queen's voice gentled, became almost kind. Take the money, Prudence. Give your child a good life far from this viper's nest. Let Edward marry his duchess and secure the realm. In time, his love for you will fade. It always does. And you will have sacrificed nothing except a fantasy that could never survive reality. Prudence's throat tightened. And if I refuse? Then you will watch what happens when love collides with power. The queen moved to the door. Edward is my son. I will not let him destroy himself for you, no matter what it takes. Remember that. She swept from the room, leaving Prudence alone with an offer that sounded like salvation and felt like damnation. That night, Prudence sat in her attic room and stared at nothing. The other maids had long since fallen asleep. Rain pattered against the narrow window. The baby turned restlessly inside her, as though sensing her turmoil. 20,000 pounds. Security for her child. Freedom from this impossible situation. All she had to do was give up the only man she had ever loved. The door creaked open. Prudence looked up, expecting Mrs. Hartley with some late assignment. Edward stood in the doorway instead. He wore traveling clothes, mud-splattered and rumpled. His hair was disheveled. His face was haggard with exhaustion. He looked like he had ridden through the night without stopping. I came as soon as I could, he said hoarsely. Thomas sent word my mother was here. What did she offer you? Prudence stood slowly. How did you get into the servants' quarters? I am the king. I go where I please. He stepped inside and closed the door. The space was impossibly small. His presence filled it entirely. What did she offer? 20,000 pounds. A house in France. A new identity. All I have to do is disappear. His jaw clenched. And what did you say? I told her no. Something broke in his expression. He crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms. Not gently. Not carefully. Desperately. Like a drowning man clutching at salvation. Thank God, he whispered against her hair. Thank God. She should pull away. Should maintain distance. Should protect her heart. Instead, she let herself sink into him. Let herself remember what it felt like to be held by the man she loved. Let herself pretend, just for a moment, that everything would be all right. This is madness, she whispered. Your mother is right. You cannot make me queen. The kingdom will never accept it. Then the kingdom will learn to accept it. He pulled back just enough to cup her face in his hands. I did not fight to become king just to lose you again. You are my wife, Prudence. You carry my child. You are my queen in every way that matters. And I will burn this kingdom to ashes before I let anyone take you from me again. Edward. He kissed her. Hard and desperate and claiming. The kiss they should have shared on their wedding night without fear. The kiss stolen and lost and finally reclaimed. When he pulled back, his eyes blazed. I love you. I have loved you since the moment you sang in that corridor. I will love you until the day I die. And I do not care who knows it anymore. Your mother will destroy us. My mother's power ended the day my father died. I am king now, and I am done sacrificing what I love for what I should want." The baby kicked
Hard.
right where their bodies pressed together. Edward felt it. His eyes widened. His hand moved to her belly. "Our child," he said softly. "Fighting to be known. Fighting to survive," Prudence corrected. "That is what we must do now, Edward.
Survive.
Your brother wants your throne. Half the kingdom wants to see you fail. And I am the perfect weapon to destroy you. Then we fight back." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips again, softer this time.
Together.
The way we should have fought from the beginning. A door slammed somewhere below. Voices called out. Someone had noticed the king's absence, or his presence here. Edward swore softly. "I must go, but I will return. And when I do, I will come not as a thief in the night, but as your husband."
Publicly.
Before the entire kingdom. That is suicide. That is love. He moved to the door.
Stopped.
Looked back. "The coronation is in 3 weeks. I want you there. Not as a servant. As my queen. Edward, you cannot. Trust me, Prudence. One more time. Trust me." Then he was gone. Vanished into the dark corridors like a ghost. Like a promise. Like a prayer. Prudence sank onto her narrow bed, one hand pressed to her heart, the other to her belly. The baby kicked again.
Insistent.
Demanding. Have faith, it seemed to say. Or perhaps run. She still could not tell which. Edward sent a carriage for her 3 days later. Not a servant's wagon. Not a hired coach. A royal carriage bearing the king's crest, drawn by 4 matched greys, accompanied by 6 mounted guards in full regalia. The entire household of Somerset Estate gathered to watch as Prudence, still dressed in her housemaid's clothing, still wearing her apron, still visibly pregnant, was handed into the carriage by a liveried footman who bowed to her as though she were already queen. Mrs. Hartley's face was unreadable. Cook wept openly. The other servants whispered behind their hands, eyes wide with shock and speculation. "God be with you, girl," Mrs. Hartley said quietly as Prudence passed. "You will need his protection where you are going." The journey to London took 6 hours. Prudence sat alone in the plush interior, surrounded by velvet cushions and gold fittings, feeling like an imposter in a borrowed life. The baby kicked constantly, as restless as she was. Through the window, she watched the countryside give way to villages, then towns, then finally the sprawling chaos of the capital. They entered London as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. The carriage rolled through streets packed with people. Merchants closing shops. Laborers heading to taverns. Families gathered around street vendors. Normal people living normal lives. Prudence pressed her hand to the window. That had been her life once. Simple. Unremarkable. Safe. She had traded it for this impossible, beautiful, terrifying thing called love. The carriage turned through iron gates into the palace grounds. Prudence's breath caught. She had scrubbed these corridors for 3 years. Had slept in an attic room barely bigger than a closet. Had eaten servants' meals in the basement kitchens while royalty dined on gold plates 3 floors above. Now she arrived through the front entrance like she belonged. The carriage stopped. The door opened. A footman offered his hand. Thomas stood at the top of the palace steps, his weathered face split in a rare smile. "Welcome home, Your Majesty." The title hit her like a blow. "Thomas, I am not. You are what His Majesty the King declares you to be." Thomas descended the steps and offered his arm. "And he has declared you his wife."
Come.
"He is waiting." She let him lead her through doors she had only entered to scrub and polish. Through marble halls that echoed with her footsteps. Past portraits of queens and kings stretching back centuries, all of them pale, all of them noble, all of them nothing like her. Thomas stopped before a set of gilded doors. His Majesty's private apartments. He asked that you be brought directly to him. Thomas. Prudence gripped his arm. "What is happening? Why did he summon me now? The coronation is not for 2 weeks still." Everything has accelerated. Thomas's smile faded. Prince Leopold has been spreading poison through the court. Rumors about His Majesty's fitness to rule. Questions about his judgment. Whispers that he is compromised by a secret attachment. The Coronation Council is fractured. Half support the king. Half whisper that perhaps Leopold would be more reliable. Then I should not be here. My presence will only confirm Leopold's accusations. Your absence would destroy him. Thomas opened the door. Go to him, Prudence. He has been half-mad waiting for you. The apartments beyond were nothing like she remembered. She had cleaned these rooms 100 times, but always when Edward was elsewhere. Now they felt entirely different.
Lived in.
Personal.
His.
Edward stood at the window, still wearing his formal court dress. Black for mourning, gold trim for royalty. He looked exhausted. Thinner than 3 weeks ago. Older. He turned when she entered. Relief crashed across his face. You came. You sent 6 guards and a royal carriage. I could hardly refuse. You could have. You have refused me plenty of times before. He crossed to her in 3 long strides. His hands found her face, her shoulders, her belly, touching her like he needed proof she was real. Are you well? Did the journey tire you? You should sit. Let me call for food, tea, whatever you need. Edward.
She caught his hands.
Why am I here? Because I cannot do this without you. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. The coronation is in 12 days. I need you by my side when I take the crown. Not hidden away, not in secret. As my wife. As my queen. That is suicide. Thomas said Leopold is already spreading rumors. If you confirm them, I am going to do more than confirm them. Edward pulled back, his eyes burning with determination. I am going to present proof that our marriage was legal. I am going to expose my mother's fraud before the entire Coronation Council. I am going to legitimize our child and name you queen consort. All of it.
Publicly.
At the coronation. The room spun. Prudence gripped his arms for balance. You cannot. The lords will revolt. The church will refuse. The archbishop already knows. I showed him the proof yesterday. The falsified documents. The paid-off vicar's confession. Thomas obtained it. The original legal marriage registry that my mother tried to destroy. Edward's voice was fierce. The archbishop cannot deny the evidence. Our marriage stands. Even if the marriage is legal, they will never accept me as queen. They will have no choice. Once I am crowned king, my word is law. If I say you are queen, you are queen. And if Leopold challenges you, if half the kingdom rises in rebellion because you elevated a housemaid to the throne, then we face them together. He cupped her face in his hands. I have spent 7 months living a half-life without you. 7 months pretending to care about duty and politics and the good of the kingdom while everything inside me screamed for you. I am done pretending, Prudence. I am done sacrificing what I love for what I should want. You are my wife. This is our child. And I will defend that truth with every breath in my body. What about Georgiana? His face clouded. I told her yesterday. Everything. Prudence's stomach dropped. What did she say? She wept. Edward's voice was rough with guilt. She called me a monster. Said I had used her abominably. She was right. I have treated her with unforgivable cruelty. I have made her love me while loving another. I have let her plan a future that could never exist. Where is she now?
Gone.
Her father arrived within the hour and took her home. He has withdrawn his military support. Half the generals loyal to him have followed. Leopold is consolidating that power as we speak. Edward's jaw clenched. The kingdom is fracturing, Prudence. The coronation may be the last moment of unity we have before everything falls apart. Then postpone it. Give yourself time to shore up support.
There is no time.
My father's body lies in state. The coronation must happen within the month or risk appearing weak. Leopold is already claiming I am unfit to rule. That I am controlled by base passions. That I will destroy the kingdom for personal desire. He pulled her closer. He is not entirely wrong. But I would rather be called unfit and keep you than be called a good king and lose you again. A knock at the door interrupted them. Thomas entered, his face grim. Your Majesty, forgive the intrusion, but Prince Leopold has requested an audience. He says it is urgent. Edward's eyes went cold. Show him in. Edward, no. Prudence started. Stay. He gripped her hand. I want him to see you. I want him to know I am not hiding you anymore. Leopold swept into the room like a storm given human form. He was younger than Edward by 3 years, darker-haired, sharp-featured, handsome in a cruel way. His eyes found Prudence immediately and narrowed. So the rumors are true. Leopold's voice dripped disdain. My brother the king has imported his pregnant whore to the palace. How delightfully common. Call her that again, Edward said softly, dangerously, and I will have your tongue cut out. You would threaten your own brother? Your heir? How very kingly of you. Leopold moved closer, circling Prudence, like a wolf examining prey. Tell me, girl, how much did he pay you to play this part? To pretend you are more than a servant warming his bed. She is my wife, Edward bit out. Legally married. I have proof. Oh yes, the miraculous proof that conveniently appeared just when you needed it. Leopold laughed. Do you truly think the lords will accept this? That the church will bless a king who marries beneath his station? That the people will bow to a black housemaid playing at being queen? Prudence felt the words like blows. Every fear she had harbored, every doubt, spoken aloud in Leopold's mocking voice. The people will accept what I tell them to accept, Edward said coldly. I am king. You are king for now. Leopold turned his attention back to Edward. But kingship is not guaranteed by birth alone, brother. It is maintained by the consent of those you rule. And I promise you, they will never consent to this. Your beloved housemaid will be your downfall. When the lords refuse to attend your coronation, when the generals withdraw their loyalty, when the people riot in the streets, I will be there to restore order. To take the crown you threw away for a pair of pretty eyes. Get out. Gladly. Leopold moved to the door, then stopped. Looked back at Prudence with something almost like pity. I do hope you survive what is coming, girl. Though, I suspect you will not. Love stories like yours always end in tragedy. Usually with the unsuitable woman conveniently dead, clearing the way for the king to marry appropriately and restore peace. Keep that in mind when you are weighing your choices. He left. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. Prudence's legs gave out. She sank into a chair, both hands pressed to her belly. The baby kicked frantically. Or perhaps that was her own heart, trying to escape her chest. He threatened me. Her voice came out hollow. He threatened to have me killed. He will not touch you. Edward knelt before her. I will station guards outside your door. You will not leave the palace grounds without protection. I will keep you safe. You cannot keep me safe from an entire kingdom that wants me dead. Prudence looked at him. Really looked at him. At the exhaustion in his eyes. The desperation. The love that was destroying him. Leopold is right. I am your downfall. Every day I stay, I give him more ammunition. More proof that you are unfit to rule. I do not care. You should care. You are king. Your decisions affect millions of lives. And you are about to plunge this kingdom into chaos for one woman. For my wife. For my child. For my family. For a fantasy that can never survive reality. Prudence stood. The decision crystallized in her chest like ice. Sharp.
Clear.
Inevitable. Your mother was right. I should have taken her offer. Edward's face went white. What are you saying? I am saying I cannot let you destroy yourself for me. Prudence backed toward the door. I am saying that loving you is not enough. That wanting this is not enough. That sometimes the brave thing is not fighting but surrendering. Prudence, no. I am leaving, Edward. Tonight. Thomas will arrange a carriage. I will take whatever money you can spare and disappear. France, perhaps. Or Scotland. Somewhere Leopold cannot find me. Somewhere I cannot be used against you. You are not leaving me again. Edward caught her arms. Not hard, but firm. I will not let you. You do not have a choice. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I am making this choice for both of us. You will marry appropriately. You will unite the kingdom. You will be the king your father wanted you to be. I will be nothing without you. You will be king. And that is enough. She pulled free and ran. Through the gilded corridors. Past stunned servants. Down marble stairs her feet remembered from 3 years of scrubbing. She heard Edward shouting behind her. Heard footsteps giving chase. She burst into the entrance hall and froze. The Queen Mother stood at the main doors, flanked by 6 guards. Her face was triumphant. Going somewhere, dear? The Queen smiled. Predatory. I thought you might attempt to flee once you saw sense. I have come to facilitate your departure. Mother, what have you done? Edward appeared at the top of the stairs, Thomas beside him. What I should have done 7 months ago. The Queen descended the steps toward Prudence. This girl will leave the palace tonight. She will accept my original offer with slightly modified terms. And you, my son, will let her go. For the good of the kingdom. I will do no such thing.
You will.
Because if you do not, I will ensure Leopold's accusations stick. I will testify before the Coronation Council that you are unfit to rule. That you are compromised by obsession with an unsuitable woman. That you place personal desire above the kingdom's needs. The Queen's voice hardened. I will hand Leopold the crown myself before I watch you destroy everything for a housemaid. Silence. Absolute. Suffocating. Edward stood at the top of the stairs, face carved from stone. Below, Prudence stood trapped between the Queen's guards. Between them stretched the impossible distance of duty and love, throne and heart, kingdom and family. Please, Prudence whispered. Not to the Queen. To Edward. Let me go. His eyes met hers across the marble hall. In them she saw everything. 7 months of grief. 2 months of stolen happiness. A lifetime of what could have been.
No, he said.
The single word echoed through the hall like a declaration of war. The Queen's face went rigid. Edward.
No.
He descended the stairs slowly. Each step deliberate. Each step claiming territory. You will release her. You will remove your guards. And you will leave my palace.
Now.
I am trying to save you. You are trying to control me. As you have always tried to control me. But I am king now, mother. Not your son. Not your subject. Your king. And I am ordering you to stand aside. The Queen did not move. If you do this, I will denounce you. Tomorrow. Before the entire court. I will give Leopold everything he needs to challenge your coronation. Then do it. Edward reached Prudence and took her hand. But you will do it without this woman's blood on your hands. She is leaving, yes. But with me. As my wife. As my queen. And if the kingdom will not accept that, then perhaps it does not deserve either of us. He pulled Prudence toward the stairs. The Queen's guards shifted. Hands went to sore hilts. Stand down, the Queen snapped. Let them go. The guards parted. Edward and Prudence climbed the stairs together, hands clasped, hearts racing. Behind them, the Queen Mother's voice rang out. Cold. Final. Absolute. You have doomed yourself, Edward. And you have doomed her. I pray you both survive what you have set in motion. But I very much doubt you will. The Queen Mother made good on her promise at dawn. Prudence woke in a guest chamber 3 times the size of her old servant's room. Silk sheets. Velvet drapes. A fire crackling in an enormous hearth. She had slept fitfully, one hand on her belly. Edward's guards stationed outside her door. The baby had kicked all night. Restless. Afraid. Or perhaps that was just Prudence. A knock sounded. A maid entered. Not in servant's dress, but in the finer clothing of a lady's attendant. She curtsied deeply. Begging your pardon, ma'am. His Majesty requests your presence in the throne room. Immediately. The girl's eyes were wide with poorly concealed fear. The Coronation Council has been summoned. The Queen Mother is making a statement. Prudence's stomach dropped. What kind of statement? I do not know, ma'am. But the entire court is assembled. His Majesty was most insistent you attend. Prudence dressed quickly in clothing that had been laid out for her. Not servant's garb. A proper day dress in deep blue silk.
Simple but fine.
Respectable. The kind of dress a gentlewoman might wear. Not a housemaid. Not a queen. Something in between. Something impossible. The maid helped arrange her hair, covering it with a lace cap that at least made her look slightly less like she had just climbed out of bed. The baby kicked hard against her ribs. Prudence pressed her hand to the spot. Be still, she whispered. Whatever happens today, we survive it together. Thomas waited outside her chamber. His face was grave. His Majesty wanted me to escort you. For protection. Protection from what? The court? The lords? Your queen mother? All of them. Thomas offered his arm. Stay close to me. Do not speak unless His Majesty asks you to directly. And whatever the queen mother says, do not react. She wants to provoke you. To make you appear unsuitable. I am unsuitable. That is the problem. You are the woman the king loves. That makes you suitable by definition. They walked through corridors packed with courtiers and nobles. Every eye turned to watch Prudence pass. She heard the whispers like hissing snakes. Is that her? The housemaid? She is breeding. How vulgar. He has lost his mind. Leopold should be king. Thomas's grip on her arm tightened. Ignore them. The throne room doors stood open. Inside, hundreds of people packed the vast space. Lords in their finest dress. Church officials in elaborate robes. Military generals in full uniform. The entire power structure of the kingdom assembled in one room. At the far end, on the raised dais, Edward sat on the throne. He wore the crown of state, not yet the coronation crown, but still unmistakably royal. Black mourning clothes made stark by gold embroidery. He looked carved from stone. Untouchable. Every inch a king. Until his eyes found hers. Then something in his face cracked. Relief.
Love.
Desperation. The Queen Mother stood beside the throne, addressing the assembly. Her voice carried through the chamber with practiced authority. And so I must speak truth, though it breaks my heart to do so. My son, your king, is compromised. He has formed an attachment to a woman of low birth, a housemaid who served in this very palace. He claims she is his wife, that they married legally, but I tell you the marriage was a farce. A rushed ceremony with falsified documents. A seduction by a clever girl who saw an opportunity to elevate herself. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Shock, outrage, agreement. I bore witness to this relationship, the Queen continued. I saw how the girl manipulated my son. How she used feminine wiles to ensnare a man already burdened by duty and grief. When I discovered the deception, I acted to protect the crown. I ensured the false marriage was annulled. I paid the girl handsomely to leave. I believed the matter resolved. She turned to look directly at Prudence. Her eyes were ice. But the girl has returned. She claims to carry the king's child, though who can verify such a claim? She has woven her web again, and my son, blinded by passion, cannot see the trap. He plans to elevate this commoner to queen, to legitimize a child of dubious parentage, to place his personal desires above the stability of the realm. The crowd erupted. Shouts of agreement. Cries of protest. The chamber descended into chaos. Edward rose from the throne. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. Silence. The room fell quiet. The king's command was absolute. My mother speaks of manipulation, Edward said coldly. Let me speak of truth. 7 months ago, I married Prudence Fletcher in a legal ceremony before God. My mother discovered this and committed fraud to invalidate the marriage. She falsified church records. She bribed officials. She lied to me and to this court. I have proof. He gestured to Thomas, who stepped forward with a leather folder. Documents obtained from the original vicar. Testimony of witnesses. The true marriage registry that my mother attempted to destroy. Our marriage was legal. It remains legal. Prudence Fletcher is my wife. The child she carries is my legitimate heir. The crowd exploded again, louder this time, angrier. A tall man in military dress stepped forward. Duke Pemberton, Georgiana's father. His face was red with fury. You admit this, then? That while courting my daughter, while promising her marriage and a crown, you were already wed to a servant? You deceived us all. You made my daughter a laughingstock. I did. Edward's voice was steady. I treated Lady Georgiana abominably. I have no defense for that cruelty, except that I was trying to do my duty while my heart belonged elsewhere. I was wrong. I hurt an innocent woman. For that, I am deeply sorry. Sorry? Duke Pemberton spat. You're sorry? Your sorry has cost my family honor and dignity. You expect us to accept a common housemaid as queen after such betrayal. I expect you to accept reality. I am king. She is my wife. That is the law. Law. Leopold stepped from the crowd. His voice was smooth. Dangerous. Let us speak of law, brother. The law states that a king must be of sound mind and judgment, that he must place the kingdom's welfare above personal desire. You have done neither. You are unfit to rule. Careful, Leopold. Edward descended from the dais slowly. Challenging a king's fitness is tantamount to treason. Is it treason to state obvious truth? Leopold gestured to the assembled lords. Look around you, brother. Half this room agrees with me. You have lost the support of the military. The church is divided. The lords question your judgment. And for what? For a pregnant housemaid you could have kept as a mistress, without destroying the kingdom. I will not dishonor my wife by making her a mistress. Then you choose her over your throne? Leopold's eyes gleamed. Choose carefully, brother. Because if you insist on this madness, I will call for a council vote. Right here.
Right now.
To determine if you are fit to be crowned king. Silence fell. Absolute. Suffocating. Prudence felt every eye in the room turn to her. Weighing. Judging. Finding her wanting. She was a stain on their perfect court. A reminder that their king could be moved by something as common as love. She thought of the Queen Mother's offer. £20,000. A house in France. Safety for her child. She thought of Edward's face when he held her. The way he said her name like it was sacred. She thought of her baby, kicking against her ribs, fighting to exist in a world that would always see it as illegitimate. And she made a choice. Prudence stepped forward. Her voice rang through the throne room, clear and strong despite her terror. You are right. Every head turned. Edward's eyes widened. You are right, she repeated. I am common. I was a housemaid who scrubbed these very floors. I have no title, no fortune, no noble blood. I am precisely as unsuitable as you believe me to be. Leopold smiled. Triumphant. Finally, the girl speaks sense. I am not finished. Prudence moved through the crowd. They parted before her like water. I am unsuitable by your standards. But your standards are not God's standards. And before God, I am Edward's wife. We made vows. We consummated those vows. I carry the fruit of that union. Those are facts that no amount of political maneuvering can erase. She reached the dais and climbed the steps. Stood before the throne. Before Edward. Before the entire assembled power of the kingdom. You say Edward must choose between his throne and his wife, she continued. But that is a false choice. A good king protects his family. A good king keeps his vows. A good king does not cast aside the people he loves when politics become inconvenient. If Edward is the man I believe him to be, he can do both. He can be a faithful husband and a faithful king. Pretty speech, the Queen Mother said coldly. But speeches do not change reality. You're still a commoner. The lords will never accept you. The church will never crown you queen. Then perhaps, said a new voice, the church should speak for itself. An elderly man in elaborate clerical robes stepped forward. Archbishop Whitmore, the highest church authority in the kingdom. His weathered face was stern but not unkind. I have examined the evidence His Majesty provided, the archbishop said. The marriage between Edward and Prudence Fletcher was legally performed. The ceremony was valid. The vows were binding. Before God and before this church, they are man and wife. Chaos erupted. The Queen Mother's face went white. Leopold shouted protests. The lords argued amongst themselves. The archbishop raised his hand. Silence fell again. I have served this kingdom for 40 years, he continued. I have crowned 2 kings. I have seen the throne pass from father to son. And in all that time, I have learned one truth. A kingdom is only as strong as its king's honor. If Edward casts aside his wife to please political necessity, what message does that send? That vows mean nothing? That love is disposable? That a man's word is worthless when tested? He turned to address the assembled lords directly. Edward made a choice 7 months ago. Perhaps it was foolish. Perhaps it was impractical. But it was made before God. And I, as his representative in this realm, will not permit that sacred bond to be dissolved for convenience. The marriage stands. The child is legitimate. And when I place the crown upon Edward's head in 12 days, I will crown Prudence as his queen consort. Any who object may take their grievances to God himself. The throne room fell into stunned silence. Then, slowly, an elderly lord in the back row stood. Lord Fairfax, one of the oldest, most respected peers in the kingdom. The archbishop speaks wisdom, Lord Fairfax said. I have known 3 kings in my lifetime. I have seen them marry for politics, for alliances, for duty. And I have watched those marriages produce cold heirs and colder courts. Perhaps it is time we had a king who married for love. Perhaps that is not weakness but strength. Another lord stood. Then another.
Not all of them.
Not even half. But enough. Enough to show that Edward was not entirely alone. Duke Pemberton remained seated. Many of the military generals did too. Leopold's face was twisted with rage. The Queen Mother looked like she might faint. But the archbishop's pronouncement stood. And with it, Edward's legitimacy. Edward took Prudence's hand and raised it high. When he spoke, his voice carried through the chamber with absolute authority. Prudence Fletcher is my wife. She will be crowned beside me in 12 days. Any who cannot accept that may leave this court now with my blessing. But know this, if you stay, if you serve this crown, you will treat her with the respect due to your queen. You will bow to her. You will honor her. And you will protect her as you would protect me. He turned to Leopold. As for challenges to my fitness to rule, I welcome them. Call your vote, brother. Let us see which of us the lords prefer. Leopold's jaw clenched. He looked around the room, counted heads, counted loyalties, and apparently found them lacking, because instead of calling the vote, he simply turned and walked from the throne room. A dozen lords followed him. The Queen Mother remained, statue still, staring at her son with something like grief. You have destroyed everything, she whispered. No, mother. Edward's voice was gentle now.
Sad.
I have simply chosen what I love over what you wanted me to love. Perhaps you will forgive me someday. But I will not apologize for it. She left without another word. The rest of the court slowly dispersed, some bowing to Edward as they passed, a few even nodding to Prudence, most simply leaving in silence, their judgment unspoken but clear. When the throne room finally emptied, only Thomas, the archbishop, and a handful of loyal guards remained. Prudence's legs gave out. She sank onto the throne room steps, both hands pressed to her belly. The baby kicked wildly. She could not tell if it was celebrating or panicking. Edward knelt beside her. You were magnificent. I was terrified. You did not look it. He cupped her face. You stood before the most powerful people in the kingdom and told them truth. You claimed your place. You were every inch a queen. Half of them still hate me. The other half will learn to love you, just as I did. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. 12 days, Prudence. In 12 days I place a crown on your head, and then let them try to take you from me. The archbishop cleared his throat. Your Majesty, if I might offer counsel? Edward stood, helping Prudence to her feet. Of course, Your Grace. The coronation will be contentious. Prince Leopold has support among the military and some lords. He will not accept this outcome quietly. You must consolidate your position before the ceremony. Shore up loyalties. Make alliances. Show the kingdom that you are strong enough to rule despite this unconventional situation. What do you suggest? A progress, the archbishop said. Visit the people. Let them see you and your queen together. Let them judge for themselves whether your love weakens you or strengthens you. If the common people support you, the lords will have no choice but to follow. Edward looked at Prudence. A progress means travel. It would be exhausting in your condition. I can manage. She straightened her spine. If we are going to convince the kingdom that I belong beside you, I cannot hide in the palace. I must show them I am strong enough to be queen. Then we leave tomorrow, Edward decided. Thomas, arrange an itinerary. Nothing too strenuous. Close cities only. We have 11 days until coronation. We will spend 10 of them showing this kingdom what a king and queen truly look like. Thomas bowed. It will be done, Your Majesty. That night, Prudence stood at the window of her chamber, staring out at the London streets below. Lights flickered in windows. Smoke rose from chimneys. Ordinary people living ordinary lives. She pressed her hand to the glass. Cold.
Solid. Real.
Tomorrow she would begin a progress through the kingdom. In 12 days, she would be crowned queen. Her child would be born legitimate. Her marriage would be recognized. Everything she had wanted. Everything she had been too afraid to hope for. And yet the Queen Mother's words echoed in her mind. You have doomed yourself. Perhaps she had. Perhaps they both had. But as Edward entered the chamber and wrapped his arms around her from behind, his hands settling on her belly where their child grew, Prudence thought that perhaps some dooms were worth embracing. If this was her tragedy, at least it was one she chose. Whatever comes, Edward murmured against her hair. We face it together. Together, she agreed. Outside, London slept. Inside the palace, enemies plotted. And somewhere in the shadows, Leopold and the Queen Mother planned their next move. But for this one moment, in this one room, Edward and Prudence held each other. Two people who should never have met. Two people who should never have fallen in love. Two people who were about to try to change a kingdom simply by refusing to let go. The baby kicked.
Strong.
Insistent.
Alive.
A fighter, Prudence thought. Just like its parents. They would need that fighting spirit for what came next. The progress began in rain. Fitting, Prudence thought, as the royal carriage rolled through London streets toward their first stop. Everything with Edward seemed to begin in rain. Their first conversation. Their wedding night. The morning she had seen him again after 7 months of grief. Perhaps rain was their blessing. Their witness. Their promise that even storms eventually cleared. The carriage was open-topped despite the drizzle, allowing the people to see their king and his pregnant housemaid queen. Edward sat beside her, his hand covering hers on the seat between them. Every so often he would glance at her, checking that she was well, that she was not overtired. She was exhausted already. But she would not show it. The streets were packed. Thousands of people lined the roads, craning for a glimpse. Some waved. Some shouted support. Many simply stared, faces unreadable. But as they passed, Prudence began to hear something unexpected. God save the Queen. Blessings on the babe. Long live King Edward and Queen Prudence. Not everyone. Not even most. But enough. Enough to make her throat tighten with surprise and gratitude. They stopped in Southwark first. A working district. Prudence's district in a way. These were her people. Laborers. Servants. Merchants. People who scrubbed floors and hauled water and knew what it meant to work until your hands bled. Edward helped her from the carriage. A small platform had been erected in the market square. He led her up the steps and turned to face the crowd. People of Southwark, he said, his voice carrying across the square. I present to you Prudence Fletcher, my wife, your future queen. A woman born not to privilege, but to labor. A woman who knows your struggles, because she has lived them. A woman who will serve this kingdom not because she was raised to it, but because she chooses it. The crowd was silent, waiting, judging. Prudence stepped forward. Her heart hammered, but her voice came out steady. "I do not pretend to deserve this honor," she said. "I know what you see when you look at me. A housemaid who got above her station. A common girl who seduced a prince. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps I am all those things." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Not hostile, curious. "But I am also a woman who loves her husband," Prudence continued. "Who will love this kingdom because he loves it. Who will fight for you because you are his people and therefore mine. I cannot promise to be a perfect queen. I can only promise to be an honest one. To remember where I came from. To never forget that I stood where you stand now." She pressed her hand to her belly. The baby kicked, visible through her dress. "This child will be your future sovereign," she said quietly. "Born of a king and a housemaid. Born of nobility and common blood. Perhaps that is exactly what this kingdom needs. A ruler who understands both worlds. Who bridges the divide between palace and street." Silence. Long, heavy. Then an elderly woman near the front called out, "What was your trade, girl? Before you caught the king's eye?" "I scrubbed floors, grandmother. For 3 years in the palace. My hands still remember the cold stone and the lye soap. And now you will wear a crown? Now I will try to be worthy of one." The old woman considered this. Then, slowly, she bent her knee in a curtsy. "God save Queen Prudence." Others followed. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to matter. They visited 6 more districts that day. East London, the docks, the merchant quarter. Each time, Prudence spoke. Each time, she claimed her truth rather than hiding from it. Each time, more people bent their knees. By evening, when they returned to the palace, Prudence could barely stand. Her back screamed. Her ankles had swollen to twice their normal size. The baby kicked constantly, disturbed by all the movement and noise. Edward carried her to their chambers himself, dismissing the servants. He laid her on the bed and removed her shoes with gentle hands. "You are perfect today," he murmured, massaging her swollen feet. "They love you already. Some of them love me. Others still think I am a schemer who trapped you." Then we continue. Tomorrow we visit the northern districts. The day after, the western estates. By the time we reach Coronation Day, the entire city will know your name and your heart. And if it is not enough, if Leopold still has enough support to challenge your crown, then we deal with it. He moved up the bed to lie beside her, one hand on her belly. Together. As we have dealt with everything else. The baby kicked against his palm. Edward smiled. Strong, like its mother. Stubborn, like its father. They lay in silence for a long moment. Outside, London bustled with evening activity. Inside, they simply breathed. Simply existed. 2 people who had fought so hard to reach this fragile peace. "I was afraid for so long," Prudence whispered. "Afraid I was not enough. That I would ruin you. That loving you is selfish and destructive. And now I think perhaps I am enough. Not because I am perfect, not because I deserve this, but because I choose it, because I stand up and claim it rather than hiding from it." She turned to face him. "Your mother was wrong. Love does not weaken you. It gives you something worth fighting for." "You give me something worth fighting for." He kissed her.
Soft. Sweet.
Full of promise. Tomorrow they would continue the progress. In 10 days, they would face the coronation and whatever challenges came with it. But tonight they had this. Each other. Their child. Their impossible, beautiful, hard-won love. It would have to be enough. The 9th day of the progress began with blood. Prudence woke at dawn to wetness between her legs. Not much. Just a trickle. But enough to send ice through her veins. "Edward." She shook him awake. "Something is wrong." He was up instantly, calling for servants, for the royal physician, for anyone who could help. Within minutes, Dr. Thornberry was examining her while Edward paced outside the chamber like a caged wolf. "The baby is coming early," Dr. Thornberry announced. Not immediately, but soon. Within days, perhaps a week. You must rest completely. No more travel. No more public appearances. The coronation is in 3 days, Prudence protested. I have to be there. If you push yourself, you risk the child. Is a crown worth your baby's life? The question landed like a blow. Prudence pressed both hands to her belly. The baby kicked. Weaker than usual.
Tired.
No, she whispered. Nothing is worth that. Edward entered, his face pale. What did the doctor say? The baby is coming early. I cannot continue the progress. I cannot, her voice broke. I cannot attend the coronation. Then we postpone it. You cannot postpone a coronation. Leopold will call it weakness. Will use it to challenge you. Will say you are so controlled by your housemaid wife that you delay the kingdom's most sacred ceremony for her convenience. I do not care what Leopold says. You should care. You must care. Prudence gripped his hand. Go to the coronation without me. Take the crown. Secure your throne. I will be here when you return. I will not be crowned without you. You must. The kingdom needs stability, needs certainty, needs to see their king crowned and legitimate. I will still be your wife, still be your queen, but the formal crowning can wait until after the baby is born. Dr. Thornberry cleared his throat. If I may, Your Majesty, the lady speaks wisdom. Stress could bring on early labor. The child would be dangerously premature. 2 or 3 more weeks in the womb could mean the difference between life and death. Edward sank onto the bed beside her.
His face was ravaged.
I cannot lose you.
Not now.
Not after everything. You will not lose me. I am stronger than I look. She cupped his face.
Go. Be crowned.
Be king. I will be here, carrying your child, waiting to be your queen when the time is right. Prudence. This is not defeat, Edward. This is strategy. Let them see you can rule without me standing beside you every moment. Let them see you are strong enough to be king on your own. Then when I am crowned later, it will be because you choose me, not because you need me. There is a difference. He was silent for a long moment. Then he pressed his forehead to hers. When did you become so wise? When I fell in love with a stubborn prince who refused to let me go. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Edward threw himself into coronation arrangements. Prudence remained in her chambers, resting, feeling the baby shift and settle lower in her belly. Any day now, Dr. Thornberry said. Any day. She prayed it would wait until after the coronation. Until after Edward's throne was secure. Thomas visited often, bringing news from the court. Leopold had gone quiet. Too quiet. The lords were gathering for the coronation. Military regiments had been positioned throughout London. Whether for security or for coup, no one could say. His Majesty is nervous, Thomas admitted on the evening before the coronation. He keeps asking if you are well. If the baby is well. He can barely focus on the ceremony preparations. Tell him I am fine. Tell him to concentrate on tomorrow. Everything depends on tomorrow. He wanted me to give you this. Thomas handed her a small wooden box. Inside was a ring. Not the simple gold band Edward had given her in that village church. This was platinum, set with a single perfect sapphire surrounded by diamonds. A queen's ring. The note tucked beneath it read, for your coronation day, whenever that may be. You are already my queen. Soon the whole world will know it. Wait for me. I will return to you. Always. Prudence slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. She pressed it to her lips and whispered a prayer into the metal. Keep him safe. Let him be crowned. Let our child survive. Let this impossible thing we have built endure. The coronation morning dawned clear and cold. December sunshine streamed through Prudence's window. She could hear the bells ringing throughout London. Hear the crowds gathering. Hear history preparing to unfold. She dressed in simple clothes and stood at her window, one hand on her belly, the other on the glass. From here, she could see the cathedral in the distance. Could imagine Edward walking up those ancient steps. Could picture the crown being placed on his head. Without her beside him, The baby kicked.
Strong.
Insistent. Not yet, Prudence murmured. Wait just one more day. Let your father become king first. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The bells rang. The crowds roared. And Prudence waited. Finally, as afternoon light slanted through her windows, the doors burst open. Edward stood there, wearing the crown of England, wearing full coronation regalia, wearing a smile that could light the darkest night. It is done, he said simply. I am king. Prudence curtsied as deeply as her belly allowed. Your Majesty. None of that. He crossed to her and pulled her upright. There is one more thing that must be done. Edward, the doctor said, I must rest. You will rest, but first you'll be crowned. He gestured to the doorway. The Archbishop entered, carrying a smaller crown on a velvet cushion. Behind him came Thomas, Mrs. Hartley from Somerset Estate, and a dozen other servants Prudence recognized. The people who had known her when she was nothing, when she was just a girl scrubbing floors. The public coronation is complete, Edward said. But a queen must still be crowned. And I will not wait another moment. He led her to the center of the room. The Archbishop smiled. Kneel, if you are able, my dear, the elderly man said gently. Prudence knelt, awkward with her belly, but determined. Edward knelt beside her. The Archbishop raised the crown. Prudence Fletcher, do you swear to serve this kingdom with honor? To stand beside your king in times of trial? To protect the realm and its people with your very life? I do so swear. Then by the power vested in me by God and by the Church, I crown you Prudence, Queen Consort of England. May you reign with wisdom, grace, and love. The crown settled on her head.
Light.
Precious. Impossible. Edward helped her stand, turned her to face the assembled servants. One by one they knelt. Mrs. Hartley with tears streaming down her weathered face. Thomas with his rare smile. Cook from the palace kitchens who had scolded Prudence 100 times. The footmen who had watched her carry water. The maids who had shared her attic room. God save Queen Prudence, they said in unison. Then Edward swept her into his arms and kissed her, deep and claiming and joyful. When he pulled back, his eyes shone. You are my queen now. Officially.
Completely.
And no one can ever take that from you. Prudence touched the crown on her head, felt its weight, its promise, its impossible reality. We did it, she whispered. Against everyone. Against everything. We actually did it. We did it together. As we will do everything else. He pressed his hand to her belly. Our child will be born legitimate. Will grow up knowing both parents. Will inherit a throne built on love rather than politics. The baby kicked. Hard. Then harder. Prudence gasped. Edward. Water flooded between her legs. The baby was coming.
Now.
The next hours blurred into pain and pressure and Dr. Thornberry's calm voice instructing her to push. Edward held her hand through it all, refusing to leave despite propriety, despite scandal, despite the doctor's protests that men did not attend births. I am king, Edward had said flatly, and I will be here when my child enters the world. So he stayed. And when the baby finally emerged, red and screaming and perfect, he was the first to hold their daughter. A girl, he said, voice breaking. We have a daughter. A princess, Prudence corrected, exhausted and exhilarated. We have a princess. Edward placed the baby in her arms. Prudence looked down at the tiny face, the dark skin, the shock of black hair, the eyes that would probably be brown like hers rather than blue like his. What shall we name her? Edward asked. Prudence thought of everything they had survived. Every battle, every sacrifice, every moment they had chosen love over ease.
Hope, she said.
We name her Hope. The gardens of Somerset Estate bloomed in late spring glory. Roses climbed trellises. Bees hummed through lavender. Sunshine turned everything golden. Prudence sat on a blanket spread beneath an ancient oak, watching her daughter take her first wobbling steps. Hope was 1 year old now, walking, babbling, determined to touch everything she could reach. Edward sprawled beside them, coat discarded, cravat loosened, looking more relaxed than Prudence had ever seen him. Being king suited him, but being a father suited him even better. "She has your stubborn streak," he observed as Hope fell for the third time and immediately struggled back to her feet. "She has your refusal to admit defeat," Prudence countered. They watched their daughter chase a butterfly across the grass. In the distance, Prudence could see the estate house where she had once carried firewood, where Edward had seen her and frozen, where everything had changed. So much had changed in 1 year. The kingdom had settled under Edward's rule. Leopold had made one attempt to challenge the succession, claiming irregularities in the coronation. The archbishop had shut him down swiftly. Half the lords who had followed Leopold eventually returned to court, bending knee to their king and queen. The other half remained in exile, nursing their grievances quietly. Let them, Prudence thought. History would judge who was right. The common people had embraced their queen faster than anyone expected. A woman who had been one of them, who understood their struggles, who visited hospitals and orphanages not for show, but because she genuinely cared. The newspapers called her the people's queen. The lords called her the housemaid queen. Prudence did not care what they called her, as long as they respected her crown. Mrs. Hartley had been promoted to mistress of the queen's household. She ran the servants with the same firm efficiency she had always shown, but now she did it with pride. One of her own had risen to the highest position in the land. It gave every servant hope that they too might transcend their station. The Queen Mother had retired to a country estate. She wrote occasionally, stiff letters that never quite apologized but softened around the edges as time passed. She had visited once to meet her granddaughter, had held Hope with trembling hands and tears in her eyes, had whispered to Prudence that perhaps she had been wrong. Perhaps love was not weakness after all. Georgiana had married a Scottish duke and reportedly was quite happy. Prudence had sent a wedding gift and a note of apology. Georgiana had responded with grace, wishing them well. Some wounds healed with time and distance. "What are you thinking about?" Edward asked, pulling Prudence from her thoughts. "Everything. How far we have come. How impossible it all seemed." "It was impossible. We did it anyway." He pulled her close. "That is what love does. It makes the impossible possible." Hope toddled back to them, grass-stained and grinning, and collapsed into her mother's lap. Prudence held her daughter close, feeling the weight of the crown on her head, literal and metaphorical, and marveled at the strange path her life had taken. From scrubbing floors to wearing a crown. From invisible to unmissable. From worthless to worthy. Not because a prince had chosen her, but because she had chosen herself. Had stood up when everyone told her to bow down. Had claimed her place when everyone said she had none. Had loved fiercely and refused to apologize for it. "Tell me the story again, Mama," Hope said in her baby voice. Though she was too young to understand, she loved the rhythm of the tale. "Once upon a time," Prudence began, "there was a girl who carried firewood and a prince who fell in love with her. And they lived happily ever after?"
Hope asked.
Prudence looked at Edward, at their daughter, at the impossible life they had built from nothing but stubborn love and refused surrender. "Yes, darling," she said, kissing Hope's dark curls. "They lived happily ever after." And in the gardens of Somerset Estate, where it had all begun with frozen stairs and scattered wood, and the courage to hope, that was exactly what they did. What would you rate this story? Drop 0 to 10 in the comments right now. If this story moved you, hit subscribe for more emotional journeys every week. And if it truly touched your heart, consider leaving a super thanks. Your support helps us create more stories like this. Every contribution, big or small, means the world. Ready for the next story? It's even more dramatic than this one.
Click now.
Thank you for being part of this journey.